for 2:15 p.m. and quite long late because fortunate enough to be invited and we just were able to attend the groundbreaking. It's pretty exciting stuff. Glad that you're able to do that. So congratulations to the town for making that going. Introductions and roll call. JJ, you want to go through?
Yes. 1 minute, please. Marcia Porter Norton,
Present.
Kevin Hall,
It's his 30th anniversary or something, so he's backpacking.
He's not gonna dial it.
Good reason to not be here.
Katie Sickles,
There.
Brenna Moreland,
She also has an excused absence. She has a grandbaby in California.
sure.
She sent pictures.
Eva Henson,
Here.
Gilda Yazzie,
Here.
Clark Craig, here, Mark Garcia,
Present.
and Patrick Bond.
Here. Great. Go for it. Next item is public comment. Anybody from the public like to speak?
Hi, y'all. I'm Lori Roberts, and I just wanted to say that I was last week at a meeting of the Neighbors in Need Alliance. They're trying to expand to be an interfaith alliance. And there was total confusion and absolutely no clarity among the people there about the Best Western project and also whether or not anybody could even discuss the project that, the transitional housing project that's being worked on. So that seems like a group that should be informed if the information was available. So just thought I'd share that. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public like to speak?
Sure. Hi, Lisa Blomquist with Homes Fund, and I just want to mention that our annual get together that has been at Zia's for the last couple of years is going to again be at the Zia Cantina on Thursday, October 26th. So please mark your calendars. We would love to see all of you there, including anyone who's listening online. Thank you.
And is there anybody online that would like to speak? Hearing none, we'll close public comment. Next item is approval of the agenda. Do we have any modifications or adjustments?
Mr. Chair, we have David Lieberman, the RHA's lawyer, on the line, and so just to be respectful of his time, I would propose that we move the bylaws decision item up to immediately follow approval of the consent agenda.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion with that change.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded, all those in favor? Aye. None opposed. So, we're up for amended bylaw. So one of the things, just to preface this, I guess, is, obviously we talked about this at the last meeting and how to deal with some of these conflicts that come up and how to use the majority of those remaining here to make the vote. We also added some stuff about when we're not able to make a decision on an item, and we call it in to everybody via email. They have 24 hours to respond. So those items are in here, and I'll let David kind of take it from here, unless you have anything to add, JJ.
I'll just say this is on page 36 of your guys' packets. A red line version was sent out earlier in the week for you guys all to review. This is the clean version in the packet. These are the results of the board's request the last several months to clarify some things. So the bulk of it is clarifying recusal and abstention policies. And then, as Chair Vaughn alluded to, we realized while we're in there, we can go ahead and codify our letter of support online approval policy as well. And so that's towards that section towards the end. Abstention and recusal is on page 39 of 50 of the packet. And Mr. Lieberman, do you have anything to add?
Well, the red line changes, show the changes from the existing bylaws. So
Hold on,
this,
Dave. Hold on. All right, go ahead and try again.
okay, the, red line changes are the fifth amended, and restated bylaws. And, thanks for the opportunity today to, come address you on this topic. I did work with, RHA, staff on this issue and got what I understand to be, the direction of the board, what the board's looking for in terms of, changes with respect to, abstention and recusal, and also with regard to, letters of support. And so those are reflected in here. Quickly to take you through the changes. Page 3, paragraph 7 talks about quorum, and this isn't a change, it's just a clarification. Since we have 9 members, it says at least 5 out of 9 directors is a majority, a quorum that's required to have a meeting. And that if something requires 75% of the full board of directors, that would require 7 out of 9. So that's just a matter of math. It didn't change anything. The next page, abstention, paragraph 11, added recusal as a topic, and then got rid of the word disqualification, because it's not really a disqualification, it's abstention or recusal. And I'll just read through the changes. Abstention and recusal have been sometimes used interchangeably, yet they have different meanings. Abstention refers to a director withholding from a vote. Abstention is a director deciding not to vote on a particular matter. By contrast, recusal refers to a director who removes and withdraws himself, herself from a particular matter due to a financial conflict of interest or as required by the laws of the state of Colorado. Recusal is generally understood to mean that the member not only won't vote, but won't participate at all in the consideration of a motion. Abstentions and recusals are not no votes. They are not votes at all. It is not counted either way. Abstention or recusal shall not constitute either consent or opposition to the action proposed, and the secretary shall announce at the meeting and enter in the minutes that the director has recused or abstained from the vote. So that's the primary change. Then the next sentence is just a little bit, basically a little bit modification to incorporate that. So it just says that the directors at the meeting shall strive to vote on a matter unless required by law to recuse himself, herself, such as, and then it gives the financial situations where there is a conflict of interest, perhaps to vote on a matter. And so then it goes through several items where that would be the case, where a director has recused himself from voting, not for a financial reason. And so the first paragraph comes from, those paragraphs come from state law on when a board member should must recuse themselves for financial interest. And then it also adds in that paragraph C, that's from the IGA. That's where the IGA says a board member shall not vote. So I included that as well. Then the next paragraph after that says where a director recuses due to a financial conflict of interest, the recusing director shall leave the room during the board's further discussion and board voting on the matter. And then the next paragraph is the hypothetical. Is the abstention. At other times, the director may choose to abstain for a non-financial conflict of interest that the director perceives. An example of where a director may choose to abstain is where the matter to be voted upon by the board is also to be presented to the directors. Appointing government from a vote at either its planning commission or elected official level. And that language came from what I understand was the board's desire to abstain from matters where there's a non-financial conflict, not conflict, a non-financial reason to abstain. And this was the example given that the board would like. And then after that, there's just a few hypothetical situations. So to provide examples, if there's how to count the votes in certain situations. So I'll just read those. Hypothetical situation to give an example. Quorum of 5 directors or president board meeting in which one director recuses due to a financial conflict of interest in the matter being voted upon and leaves the room after announcing the conflict. 2 other directors abstain from voting due to a non-financial perceived conflict of interest. The vote on the matter on the item is 1 in favor of the matter and 1 against. The secretary would record the vote as a quorum of 5 with the measure failing to pass as it was a tie vote. 1 in favor, 1 against, 1 recusal, and 2 abstentions. And then there's another hypothetical situation, assuming the same facts, except that both of the votes were in favor. Here the secretary would record the vote as a quorum of 5 with a measure passing by a vote of 2 in favor, 0 against, with 1 recusal and 2 abstentions. So those are the changes with regard to recusal and abstention. And then on page 9 is the letter of support paragraph. And this was something that I understood the board was also looking to put into the bylaws. And what this does, I'll just read through it. Paragraph 16, letters of support. Where individuals or entities request letters of support from the board will strive to hear the matter at a regular or special board meeting. However, when time does not allow for said procedure, for example, due to a deadline that must be met by the requestor of the letter of support, the RHA staff or administration shall use its discretion to determine if the letter of support aligns with the RHA's goals and values. In such case, the RHA staff or administration shall inform the board via email of their intent to provide the requested letter of support from the RHA, accompanied by a draft of the letter of support, at which time any director shall have 24 hours to voice opposition to the letter of support, and if not, if no director opposes it, it will be deemed authorized by the board. Any board member voicing opposition to the letter of support being sent in such manner will kill the letter of support being approved outside of a board meeting, and the letter of support would thereafter be placed on the agenda at the next board meeting for possible determination. So I hope that incorporates what you were looking for in that regard. And that's all the changes, but I am here in case you have any questions or further revisions.
Yep.
Yeah,
Marcia, go ahead.
can you hear me, David?
I can, thank you.
Oh, great, thank you. I wanted to provide some feedback from Kevin Hall, who couldn't make it today, and I had a chance to look at these beforehand, so I don't want to surprise anybody by like circling back on this, but what his feedback was is that on page 40 of our packet, I don't know what page, it's the part that talks about the recusals. So it's section 11, I'm sorry. We're getting into, yeah, recusal, abstention recusal, that he thought it was a little avant-garde or strange, if you will, to have a hypothetical situation stated in a set of bylaws. And I just wanted to see, did that hit anybody else's? He said generally that might be work product that we put in our file, but he had just never read a set of bylaws that had hypothetically this could happen, hypothetically that could happen. And I don't know that I feel like giantly strongly about it, but it felt like more like a memo versus a set of bylaws. And so if we could pull it out and just, you know, have it be from you, David, to us, it would be part of the public record that we're being given some hypotheticals here. So that's really all. And actually the having to recuse ourselves if we're elected or a planning commission, I don't mind. I mean, I just wondered if that couldn't be a D, because it would be another reason to recuse. So we would say you're recusing because of A, B, C, and then D.
And D is a recusal.
A D is a
not related to
recusal
financial.
because we're an elected official or a planning commission, so it seems like that flows, like there's three reasons above it, and now there's a fourth reason. And then the hypotheticals would be my proposal, or I think Kevin's proposal to bring to you, is the hypotheticals are taken out and written in a memo to us. Unless there's a compelling legal reason to have them written into bylaws. But I wanna see what people.
Yeah, I understand where, this is Katie Sickles from the town of Bayfield. I understand where Kevin may be going, but wouldn't it be nice to have it in one place?
Sure.
Instead of trying to find a memo that was written, so
Sure.
many years ago, I think that would be easier, especially when you're all sitting and it's gonna happen at the time you don't have that memo available. That's just what I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I think Kevin said, kind of see how everybody else feels about it. I feel like I would really like the at other times a director as a D, because it puts it in the same emphasis as the top three, but I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Any other thoughts or comments?
I like, but that's actually happened for us, so I think we should spell it out.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah, and we probably should have been a little bit more clear for Mr. Lieberman, but the groups that recused themselves from that vote were elected officials that didn't have a financial interest, but
right.
we're going to end up voting on the matter at some point in the future. And they would prefer to be out of the room together and not abstain from the vote, is my understanding.
Yes, and we have to by law.
Oh, you do?
It's not a choice, we by law,
Okay.
in state law.
Well, and we're gonna have this matter in the joint planning area for sure.
Exactly.
It's just like. We'll
Yeah.
get into it. But, the reality is it's gonna happen.
Exactly.
So, or is the board comfortable adding D and then keeping the hypothetical in the document?
I did want to make another suggestion, potentially.
Well, let's cover that first.
Let's cover that first, but I think it's part of D.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, is that staff is also part of the board of directors. And so the circumstance arose where there was a potential conflict of interest, potentially with finance, unknown at the time, potentially of a project coming before either municipality. And staff was in a conflict to not know how to vote.
Right.
I was in a conflict and I didn't know it, and I
For
didn't have
that
this, and I,
particular
yes, and I
situation.
didn't have this in front of me, which would have been very helpful at the time. Cause I would have either said abstain or recuse, and I don't think I knew either or. And so I would just like to have an option, that includes staff, as our board may change with directors.
Right,
It may not always be elected, officials,
and they don't always be
and
staffed.
it may not always be staff.
Yeah.
So I just feel like that's a piece that's missing.
So on that, in this situation, I was appointed to the planning commission and had to recuse for that. So elected, appointed, or staff.
Yeah, I think we get after elected official for the work staff. Yeah. So on that, at other times, a director, going down 4 lines, we would say, or a vote at either. Well, that would be, so a director, maybe it needs to be in parentheses, elected official or staff. Or comma, either elected official or staff, or at large.
At large.
Yeah, so just delineate, there's 3 kinds of members.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Mr. Lieberman, are you following this conversation?
I am, so, I think. So the directors, as I understand it, are the, let's see, we've got the appointees, right, from each of the governmental entities. And then, how are the other, directors appointed?
You have one.
Well,
I can take that. Mr. Lieberman, each member government creates its own policies for how they appoint their representatives to the RHA board. That sometimes will vary from staff member to elected official member. Sometimes it'll be the same process.
But, I guess they're all directors though, right? They're all directors,
yes,
once it gets there.
conflicts.
So,
The conflicts may arise for both a director who's a staff member and a director who's an elected official.
okay, so I am, Oh. It's also to be presented to the directors appointed government for vote. He was planning commission. Okay,
And for-
so, I understand what you're saying, but I do think that it's kind of covered in here right now, because this applies to all directors, whether it's staff or say a board member from the appointing body. So I do think we're covered, with regard to that request. If you have like, are you thinking that there should be some additional language there? Because here's the language I think we have. Okay, at other times, a director may choose to abstain. So our director may choose to abstain for a non-financial conflict of interest that the director perceives. An example of where a director may choose to abstain is where the matter to be voted upon by the board, so we're talking about the RHA board, is also to be presented to the directors, appointing government, so whoever appointed the director, for a vote at either its, and this, we're just speaking about the appointing government, at either its planning commission or elected official level. So is that, would you like to stay or staff level? Should I add staff to that? Is that what?
Staff is also inserted.
Okay, so right there, just planning commission or elected official or staff level, add that language there.
Or at large, directors covered, so I'm good, that's all right, never mind.
Or staff.
So Mark, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
go ahead, Gil, you heard.
I was wondering if it would be possible to put a definition of what a director is, maybe at the end of the document.
Yeah, I think we could do that.
Right there. So that's speaking.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that would come out of the, we could
That
just cut and paste that from our IGA, because that's where it spells out, the directors.
okay. Can I make a suggestion, Marcia, that paragraph that states at other times, a director may choose to abstain for non-financial conflict of interest, and let's say choose to abstain or recuse themselves.
Yes, yes, very good.
And then that covers what we need without adding another paragraph.
Okay, I like that.
What would that mean?
At other times, the director may choose to abstain or recuse themselves. And then to that fourth line, we've added for a vote at either its planning commission or elected official or staff level. So that we're covering all the different types, and then at large would be covered under director.
Grammatically, that's probably staff, element, planning commission or elected official.
Yep.
Just. I didn't do very good in English.
Neither did I. Or math.
Math was a good thing.
So, Mr. Lieberman, you think we're there?
Yes, I'm with you. Yeah, and I just wanted to point out the reason that I didn't add the so again, the abstention is where it's not required by state law, and the recusal, it's just a choice. Like, I feel uncomfortable voting on this because, and then maybe it's not required by state law to not vote, whereas a recusal is required. And so typically that is for financial reasons. Those are set out in the statutes that you must recuse. But maybe there's another reason that's not quite as clear from state law, like you know, you're going to hear this later at a different level, and you don't want to prejudge something before it hits your board where you otherwise have to act, or at a staff level where you otherwise have to act. Maybe that's a good reason. Or maybe your other government requires you to recuse on such things. And so I think that's, you know, I think we could add that language there as stated, but the preference would be to keep that a separate paragraph rather than D, because A, B, and C are like the spelled out conflicts of interest that the board should adhere to. The directors should adhere to, which are the financial reasons.
My only pushback on that, and it's hopefully diplomatic, is it's not a like preference with us, with the counties. It's in state law. Ex parte communications are in state law. And so it actually is required, and I know that the municipalities might be different. So unless there's a legal reason to not pull it out, I feel like by not putting it as a D, it kind of makes it seem like, oh, if you guys really want to follow this, great, if not, great. That's not the case for us, and it's not the case for our planning commissioners either. I mean, that's just, you know, a unique perspective that counties have.
You're a funding partner, so I.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be in there.
I mean,
Yeah.
because if you look at the way it's set up, it says each director, president, and board meeting shall strive to vote on each matter or question requiring action from the board unless a director is required by law, which we are, to recuse himself or herself, such as where the director, you know, and then this one, I think by saying at other times, you're taking, it doesn't apply to everybody evenly.
I guess what I would suggest in the interest of time,
Yeah.
I would suggest that we give Mr. Lieberman the opportunity to take another
Okay,
shot at
good.
this.
I like that idea.
And then bring it back to the next board meeting.
Okay,
For
I think that's
adoption.
good.
Is it okay with the board? Please, Gil?
I would be an advocate for making sure that the planning commissioners and, elected officials have to have something in writing, it's in writing in the bylaws, just to affirm that, that it'll happen.
Good.
We'll come back with another draft.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I'm good.
And that'll give us time to get a red line out to everybody, in due course. We need it sooner rather than later then, okay? Just so we can kind of put it together.
In Article 2 is a good spot for the definition of a director. I
Yeah,
think.
Okay. Anything else on this topic?
well, thank you.
Okay, the next item is your approval of the consent agenda, right? We're back there.
Okay.
Okay, is there any comments or questions on the minutes and the financial statements?
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'm gonna log off the Zoom and I'll get cracking on this next
Great.
revision for you.
Thank you for your help.
Thank you. You bet.
Clark, did you have any? Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I so move.
Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Do we have any presentations from non-RHA entities?
We do have presentations, but related to a decision item, so it is not present in this, agenda item.
Okay, so it's not in the situation. Okay, got it. Okay, so Alliance updates. Sarah, goals tracking.
Yes, goals tracking. So that's page 13 in your packet, and just kind of based on those top 5, here are some of the updates related to that. We'll talk a little bit more about website. That's our number 1 goal. And under number 2, Catalyst Fund, we'll talk a little more in depth here in just a bit. And number 4, rental assistance. We are working on revamping that program some. And for those of you who don't know, the Alliance is a joint recipient of the Opportunity Now grant with the FLC. So we will be doing a workforce development program through that, which will include a lot of industry engagement. We will be creating micro certifications that is made by industry for industry. So through that engagement, we will be engaging industry more on the rental assistance needs as well, as kind of outlined in our first year objectives. So we should have more on that in the next couple of months. Kind of as it pertains to the 5th goal of uniting the regional approach, we were able to facilitate a meeting with the executive director of DOLA last week with Rick Garcia, for those who were able to make it. I felt like it was a really good time for us to all share our issues and further our united approach as well. So he's given us a few leads as far as funding for the RHA as well, so staff is investigating that as well. And also we have inquiries in for a La Plata County housing needs assessment, kind of based on that feedback last week, to see if we can work with group policy or SEH or maybe both to create a housing needs assessment based on a lot of the data that's already been gathered. So I should have answers for the board on where we stand with that next month as well. So those are some of the major goal tracking. What's the next item? Catalyst fund updates. So we have updated the website and we've updated the overview to include preservation based on the working group. There has been, that is one of the 6 prongs of the workforce housing needs initiative is that we address that as well. So we've included that into the Catalyst Fund and we have updated the application. So we plan to launch that, soft launch it on Friday, make sure there's no kinks, and then do a really big push of communications on Monday. So feel free to jump onto our website, check out the Catalyst Fund. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we are moving forward with round 2. And Mike will have some exciting information to share under decision items as well. But our Catalyst Fund currently is at about 650,000. We've already received a number of inquiries on this next round too. So we're very hopeful, and we will also be hosting a webinar on September 26th, if I'm correct. Yeah. September 26th, we'll have a webinar and we will also obviously record that and have that on the website for the future rounds as well. But help any of the developers who have any of the questions about applying and maybe even navigating state resources. So we have also, our housing partner, Project Moxie, has been providing technical assistance to all of the recipients of the Catalyst Fund as well. So we've been getting reports back on that, and we will share that with the board as we have all of that packaged for you.
Hey, just a quick question, kind of jumping back on the first year objectives. JJ forwarded to me as your treasurer the 2024 budget, which we'll be bringing next month to you. And there's a big chunk in the budget for grant writing and matches and so on, which we haven't done. So I'm just wondering if that should become an objective that we want to focus on and it still becomes part of 2024, or now after a year, we realize maybe grant writing isn't, an objective for RHA. So just food for thought that I wanted to throw out there. Obviously, CIRSA is making a lot of progress on stuff, but where are we with this grant thing, and do we want to focus on it? Maybe another year, we'll know, but just wanted to again throw it out there for discussion.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the grant writing aspect, we were anticipating having some more opportunities specific to the RHA, and we didn't really find them in the manner that we had hoped for. I think through the technical assistance, we've been helping a number of communities who have been applying for these grants and helping with letters of support and that sort of thing. I feel like a couple of the leads that Rick had might be applicable to some grant writing in the new year. And I would like the board to consider keeping that at least for another year, as we've brought in another in-house resource to be able to tackle grants as they present themselves as well. I think more time could be allocated to finding additional grants for the RHA funding through this resource team.
Yeah, I would just think of that last thought, to have the granting in place to look for additional funds. I think it's a good option to go, because long term, how are we gonna pay salaries of the staff and keep the office? So I think maybe having this next year or the next year funding, looking for grants to cover overhead. And I don't know if there's grants like that, but
Well, that's what, a couple of those leads that Rick was talking about are like that. So, I mean, even Chapa has funds that the RHA could apply for and that sort of thing. So, we identified applying for 3 big grants this year in our goals. And technically, Bayfield and Ignacio have applied for those big grants, and we've been a part of supporting that on a technical assistance level. But we haven't written a grant ourselves from the RHA standpoint or from the Alliance standpoint. So that is something that we could offer in the new year, I believe, more easily now that our capacity is expanded.
What's the deadline for approving the budget?
December 15th.
Okay, and it's something we could also discuss in the retreat as well.
Yeah.
And it's been a little time discussion.
Yeah. My comment would be, that we don't want to forego an opportunity. You know what I mean? So like if there was a great opportunity, and I also get back to the plan Jen did for us, that there's this idea of a signature project or projects. And maybe those become the things already in process, you know, I don't know, but I just would hate to forego an opportunity. I think I'm kind of repeating what you said at some point.
Yeah.
You know, like if something comes along and we're gonna do grant writing and we need a match as an RHA, it'd be a bummer to have, you know, said, oh, no, we're not gonna do that.
Anything else on the topic? Staffing updates.
Well,
Sarah and Sarah.
yeah. Speaking of expanding our capacity, we brought on Sarah Schwartz onto the Alliance, and we're very excited to have her. She has some years of experience in housing in Summit County, specifically working in STRs. So we're excited to have her on board. We got word of her through the hiring pipeline and jumped on the opportunity as we also heard simultaneously from the RHA board and last month's education series of the need for more technical assistance and the need for grant writing support internally. So we believe that we'll be able to address those needs by bringing Sarah on board. So
Welcome.
Thank you.
yeah. But to talk a little bit more about roles, I know I've kind of touched on it in that email to the board. Mike, of course, is still leading the organization of the Alliance. Yes, we softly tried to change my title after trying to figure out what was the right title for me. You know, for those who don't know, I was an executive director of a statewide nonprofit for 3 years and passed 2 bills in the Texas legislative session. So this is a fitting title for my experience and the role that I'm playing at the Alliance. And so I will continue in the work and capacity that I have been in with the RHA. Sarah will help expand our capacity again as our housing strategy manager, and JJ will continue to provide administrative support and be the secretary of the board. Any questions on roles or?
Great. Well, again, welcome. Number 4, CIRSA quote.
Yes, we asked for a CIRSA quote for insurance for next year and received 2 quotes from them. Not many differences between the 2. One is like 1,300 and one's 1,400 for the quotes. And this is our general liability insurance.
Page 17 out of 50 of the packet,
Yes,
where those 2 quotes are.
the RHA has previously used CIRSA, so the staff recommends we continue to use CIRSA unless the board and anybody on the board has a better recommendation. You never really know how good insurance is until you need it.
Okay.
Just a quick question. So in our budget, we have liability insurance, and it's budgeted already, or is this an additional?
No, this is the one that's budgeted.
Okay, great, thank you.
And is there a recommendation between the 2 from the staff?
I think from a staff perspective,
The least amount?
Yeah, I think the staff will bow out of making a recommendation.
I mean, we couldn't find any major differences that define that $100 change. I'm pretty sure CIRSA has one product and was trying to make it look like they have.
I will note that the digital, this is some of the information that I chose not to print out just because it was a lot and most of it was not relevant.
Yeah.
So if you want to see the full listing, that is available on the digital packet, but this seems.
But this isn't an action item, so it's just information, right?
No, we should appreciate some guidance from the board on.
Yeah, the only difference is the deductible.
Yes.
Right. Between those two, and I think you have a deadline in October.
We
so-
have a deadline on the 28th
Yeah.
of this month to get
Yeah,
a
so
signature.
I think you need insurance, doesn't need to be, that's it.
I would have a question about CIRSA, only because we're going through this right now at the city level. There are requirements annually for certain CIRSA trainings, like slip and fall. And some other things that we have to ensure that we're adhering to our insurance rules and guidelines in case something would happen. I'm wondering if we'll have to go through that as directors, would be a question to ask, because with our CIRSA requirements, and our risk manager at the city level, we all have to go through those trainings. I don't know if they are applicable
Yeah,
to transfer here, but
Slip and falls workers' comp. So what they're gonna do is basically there's training for these three boards that are a little bit more limited, so.
yeah, and that's what I'm wondering.
Okay.
Because I have to sit through a bunch of videos tomorrow afternoon to.
In all of the documentation we went over, we didn't see anything related to that, but we will ask that explicitly so we don't get any surprises.
Oh, I
Any surprises with the fall.
I'm sure directors may be different
Yeah,
than
no, it's.
staff.
So it's just the difference in money is the deductible between 500 and 1,000. Do you have preferences, or do people feel strongly that that's not that much? It's not like we're talking 5,000 to 10,000.
Right, exactly.
I'd go with the lower deductible. It's not that
Yeah.
big a difference.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
I agree. It's full.
So we would go with the 1549.10.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Is it a board decision or is that management decision?
They want a direction from the board, so.
Is that direction clear or do we have to make a motion? Just out of curiosity.
I mean, I feel like the direction's clear.
Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds
We'll
good.
move forward with that.
Website,
The website.
Oh, that was mine. Yeah, okay, so, the board will know that I did send an email out to each of you as an individual with the link. On the record, that link is a staging link, so it will not, be persistent. I'll make sure to get you guys the official link once it is live. Megan,
Can we
do you-
share?
Yeah. We should be having it up here on the screen shortly. Let me get rid of these. Yeah. So this is the RHA website as it exists now. We feel pretty good about where it is. We're always looking for those kind of minute changes that need to be made. And as any website is, this will very much be a living website with updates made constantly. Even as Megan spent a lot of time in her internship with us working on this. And even as Megan gets ready to go into bigger and better things, me and Sarah Schwartz have gotten the training stuff to continue to keep this updated. So if at any point a director finds anything that's incorrect, you're more than welcome to get in contact with us. And let us know what that is, and we can work on correcting it.
And we would like to bring up the point that Katie already knows, and that is that we are very limited in the design. So if you're feeling like the design is not robust, that is why we are limited by
Did you go to the
the.
sheriff's office to get that?
So much younger than.
I would just comment the upper banner at the beginning, maybe should have housing. Those are pretty pictures, but we are a housing authority.
Okay.
We have,
Housing Alliance, thank you.
Yeah, so if anybody has any photos too, as well as send over just anything with a brief description of what it is, I'll find a place for it on the website. So on projects right now currently, there's a little gallery started. So if you have anything from whenever, just a brief description and I'll upload it.
Yeah, a strange issue that we found within this website is that people don't tend to take pictures of construction, which tends to be what we want to have up here, so,
See, there's a banner.
yeah. Yeah, but so as you guys, yeah, especially like we're at the groundbreak for Rock Creek and others, as 3D renderings, construction, things, any of that becomes available, we'd really appreciate you sending that to us, and then we can have it up here and kind of demonstrate to the community visually what we're doing as well as through these meetings.
And we received a bunch of great photos from Bayville today that we will be incorporating into the website as well.
And so this project dashboard here, it's under construction at the moment as we're waiting for just some more content. So again, if you guys want to, if you have any content at all to send over, just tell me a little bit about it and I'll talk with Sarah and figure out how to best put it on the website for you.
It'd be nice to put the grants that have been awarded through your.
Yeah, we can add that to the resources, yeah.
So would it be possible to put our website links on there somewhere just so that?
Yes.
Yes, actually, I believe maybe they are right now. I think I've linked some of you to your respective jurisdictions.
But
Some
we'll
of you,
also,
if not, I can.
but we'll also add that as a specific, the IGA partners here, links to their website.
And unfortunately, it's just the nature of building a website. A lot of problems you're not going to be able to find until it goes live. And then you get some member of the public calling and saying that's incorrect. So we are trying to, of course, minimize that as much as possible, but that will just be part of the process, especially the first 2 or 3 months. Just as people use it, we'll discover more things, more wrinkles that we got to iron out.
I think you guys have done a good job. I went through it and it's got a lot of features for, for a package that comes from the States.
And we would like to, we're gonna go ahead and soft launch it with the approval of the board, because we do have RHA board members presenting next week at Summit, and we would like to be able to point to that resource, as well as our contract with SIPA is ending for the internal training aspect, so we'd like to launch it and move through any additional issues, if that's okay with everyone.
I'm good with it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's good, looks great.
Good job. So decision items. Resolution 2023-05, Montezuma Housing Authority consent. Sarah.
Yes, so we had this come before us, brought to us by Jen Lopez, and so hopefully everybody had a chance to take a look at the resolution. She's gonna speak to the issue in more depth now.
And hi, good to see you all. Thanks for having me. For who's online, Jen Lopez, and I'm with Project Moxie. And I'm a consultant, working, and this hat today is with residences at Durango for TWG. Do want to do a quick introduction of my guest, which is Berenice Lozano, who is a new staff member for our nonprofit, The Alliance, and our first bilingual staff. So we're very excited with lots of mortgage background. So I said, if you want to know what's going on about housing, you gotta go to the RHA meeting. So this is the project's complex, but the ask is not. So I'm gonna focus on what the ask is in front of you today. It's actually a jurisdictional issue more than anything. So, and I'm gonna step back a little bit because some folks don't know the history. Montezuma Housing Authority has been around forever, and it's a HUD housing authority. You are multi-jurisdictional, different housing authorities, different animals. For years and years and years, Terry has covered this area, so she gets federal vouchers and some other resources, and we don't have a HUD housing authority in La Plata County. You have Housing Solutions and they get lots of HUD resources. Confusing? Absolutely. But you need a housing authority based on state statute to be able to join in limited partnerships with tax credit projects. It's a interesting tool they came up with years ago at the state legislature to try to provide some kind of benefits when a public entity like a housing authority is doing endowment, essentially. So it's something we do all the time, what I have to laugh about is this is a Denver resolution. What do I mean by that? Denver doesn't understand this part of the state. So they called me at both Chapman Division of Housing, and they didn't call me. So they called the developer who called me because they couldn't understand why a Montezuma Housing Authority was going into a limited partnership on a project in La Plata County. I tried to explain to them that this is a multi-jurisdictional, it's a different animal, but they didn't get it. So are we so confused? Here's the punchline. this resolution is asking you all to bless the Montezuma County Housing Authority to enter into a partnership on the project in Durango to bring the benefits that a special limited brings. What does it bring? It does property tax exemption and it does a waiver of some of the use taxes on construction and things like that. So they're really powerful tools, again, for housing. So that's the ask. And I'll take questions and then I'll have a comment after we vote about your potential role moving forward on this, in terms of being able to play this role as part of your strategy.
So first question is, do they have the tax credit allocation?
Yes, they're going to close in a month. So,
Okay, and
yeah.
where is the project?
It's 160, so heading out towards Mancos and Cortez. It's the Best Western on the left-hand side. It's been in, it was a project sponsored by the city of Durango back in 2021. Eva, Nicole, myself, I think, lots of folks that worked on the project. It will create 120 units of affordable housing. It's the largest tax credit in the region that we've had, and it can't get online soon enough.
So this is your project, it's
Yeah.
your project now. I know
Yes,
it's
it is.
your collective project.
Yes.
It's one you've been working your butt off for a while.
Yes.
And you put that in the record. That's fine.
Nice job, Pat.
But,
It was the sample project that we talked a lot about during the building technical assistance.
That's true.
Let's do a quick question,
Yeah.
Jen. So if we have a developer, someone come to us that wants to do a LIHTC project, do we have to go to Montezuma to partner with them on that?
Moving forward, we could set you up to play this role, but you have to have an attorney and you have to have documents and some kind of policy. So that comes next.
Okay,
Honestly, when we were doing this back in 8, 9, 10, 11, the state told us we couldn't do this, so it's crazy, so somebody figured it out. So you can do this moving forward, so, just for timing, we'd love to have you endorse, so this can close at the end of the month, and then happy to come back and explain how you all can have this power.
great, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Questions, thoughts?
One question legally. So since we just talked about recusing and abstaining, we do have a financial stake in this project. The city of Durango.
Sure.
So
Correct.
You have to repeat
I
yourself.
just, I don't know, I'm supposed to vote on the resolution. I'm feeling like I don't know if I'm supposed to or not. And our attorney's already off the call.
Can I help with this? I did this all the
Maybe
time.
maybe I-
When in doubt, recuse yourself.
Yeah.
When in doubt. Yep.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I would add that the director choose to recuse themselves the traditional that they also.
Yeah.
Into the ring.
Just because Durango has a financial interest. in it.
Yes, so
Yeah.
it would be as well for Councilor Yasi.
Yeah.
And you can vote
You guys stay right up there. Be 30 seconds.
Let's say hi to Tuggy.
Well, I think this project's really exciting and I mean, like you said, can't come online fast enough. 120 units is huge. Just all the pieces that are being brought together and it's really exciting. So I would move that we pass resolution number 2023-05.
I second that.
Been moved and seconded. I have one comment. This is a great example of pioneering, because this is the first motel LIHTC deal in the state of Colorado's history. So that's another reason that it's become very complicated and difficult to get across the goal line. And I know some really smart people have been trying to do this for a long time with motel conversions, and they haven't been able to get it done. So congrats to everybody.
Absolutely.
And by that, I'll take it. All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Any opposed? None, passes unanimously.
Thank you so much. Just one other request, because we're trying to close, if you can get the signatures and stuff quickly.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We'll see you soon and hopefully as a TA advisor for you all again. So.
Great.
Can I indulge the group? Jim, we have about a minute and a half to talk about the CIA and the adventure in, because I was gonna give a report, but since you're here.
Sure.
And I don't know if you want it to be public or what, but,
Well, it is public.
right,
So I can
right,
just share
but
what
I
I
mean
saw
the good
today.
news.
Oh, yeah, sure. So, we've been, Community Investment Alliance hat now, and so I'm a strategic advisor for a nonprofit that we have vetting some of them. It's a nonprofit started 2 years ago. We do gap programs, direct services, housing stuff. At the end of last year, the county put out an RFP saying we want a homeless solution. We want to come up with a new way to address the issue. Our nonprofit responded. we negotiated a wonderful kind of pre-development program grant from the county in May. And the idea around the grant was, how can we do something that's right sized for our community, given the history of homelessness in the community? And take advantage of these transformational grants before they're gone. That was huge. And we had 3 weeks before the last one was kind of closed. So we quickly put a veteran under contract. And we won't, we're in due diligence, it's going very well, but we've got 3.5, 4 more months before we'll complete that. But we did get in for the last transformational grant round and got an award of $1 million for operating in programs around the adventure. And it's 25. It's such a beautiful continuum, right? Because the adventure will be a lodging option with some programmatic services for people who have vouchers who are waiting for Best Western to open, right? So we're starting to kind of do this really cool. And they won't all go to Best Western, but it's such a good illustration of you can have a housing voucher and wait 9 months and still not get a home. So we're trying to solve for that. And so again, we're so grateful for the county. We've started some engagement around, we're trying to reinvigorate. I think we're doing a pretty good job of starting the conversation about homelessness. And the way that we're talking about it now is, folks, we gotta prevent it. There is a wave coming. So I don't mean to be dramatic, and I mean to be really dramatic, and we can send stuff there that we can send out, but baby boomers historically becoming homeless right now, worst housing burden numbers in 50 years. Like, you all know this is now the cliff effect. So anyway, this is a project in Durango, but we'll serve La Plata County. And thank you again, La Plata County, for the help. And there'll be more and more coming out about the project as we do more engagement.
Great,
So thank you.
thank you.
Well, when we closed Purple Cliffs, we said, we're not walking away from the problem. We're looking at it in a new way, and we needed the community to come along, right? It's a shared issue. So again, thanks to Jen and your team's ingenuity, because I think it was feeling pretty stuck for a long time, right? And this feels like maybe a way forward that we can hang our hat on and get agreement on, that isn't a managed camp, that isn't all the stuff that we've had with kind of this really difficult conversation. So
Yeah, we'll be back in front of RHA, I'm sure, for something.
Great.
So, thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much.
Thanks.
Nice to see you.
Hey, Mike, DIDF Endowment.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for the time. We have a wonderful opportunity. It needs some work, but it probably needs the attention of the board first, an agreement to potentially enter into a contract, or at least create a resolution to move forward. So DIDF has, which is the foundation that we've been talking about contributing to the Catalyst Fund, has actually divested of their last asset. It is a piece of property close to the airport. That deal closed a month ago, and they have an executive session scheduled today. The concept is to create a dissolution of the foundation. Once that they find a home for the funds, they don't see the need to continue to have a foundation any longer. Most of the board is not interested in creating another project. And so their primary focus right now is addressing the largest community need, which is workforce housing. So we've come to them and said, we have a Catalyst Fund. The RHA has stood back up. We suggest you partner with us. They like the concept. In looking at their bylaws, they realize that they have to provide the funds to either another 501c3, which they are, in order to do a dissolution, or a government entity. So we have a fiscal agent as a 501c3, but we think it's a better path to ask the RHA to receive the funds as a government entity. So if the board agreed to take those funds, it would probably be in excess of $1 million that the foundation would be willing to put into the Catalyst Fund. There are a couple of terms that they would like to have attached to that gift. They would like to create a revolving loan fund. So rather than having the monies go into the Catalyst Fund as it exists today, which is for pre-development funding, they would like to see it go to a like program, but very much focused on a revolving loan for things like construction loans, cost of money, et cetera, et cetera. The revolving loan fund would be for hard costs only, so it would not be for fees, pre-development, studies, et cetera, et cetera. That's what we would use the existing catalyst fund for. So what their vision is that they combine these funds and help drive down the cost of money to developers that are in the workforce housing development game. So with that, we have indicated to them that we would come back to them with the level of interest and whether or not the board was willing to pass a resolution with specific terms that, of course, the board, the Alliance, and DIDF would come together to develop for a specific resolution for this board to pass. And then the contractual agreements would probably be between the Alliance and the RHA in terms of how we manage the Catalyst Fund, manage those funds, and of course, a resolution that identifies the legalese of accepting those funds from DIDF so that they can dissolve as a foundation, as an entity. So pretty excited about that. 7 figures is on the table, and it does have some strings attached in terms of the color of money. We have talked about how we would manage that. We would actually set up a completely separate bank account and not commingle the funds. We would create another rubric in the Catalyst Fund. The committee of the Catalyst Fund would stay intact. We'd open that committee up to anybody on DIDF that wanted to participate. So we've been very thoughtful about how we would include them moving forward to actually implement those monies.
Everything you said was great, Mike. Thanks. I don't know what DIDF means.
Let's see. The DIDF is the folks that built out Bodo, and it's the Durango Industrial Development Foundation.
Okay. Yeah. They were the ones that got money and created Bodo Park back in the day. It's a lot of the people that were key to Durango becoming what it is 30, 40 years ago. Guys like, Pat Murphy and
Their names are on the street in Bodo. Their names on the street.
Oh, yeah.
Names are on the street in Bodo. That's correct. The reason that they wanted, they don't have an interest is most of them are in their 70s and 80s. And so they've been around for 30 plus years, and they're ready to have an impact in a different way.
So the question I have, Mike, is that the capacity for a revolving fund, what is that to the RHA? Would that be the RHA's responsibility, or would that be the Catalyst Fund?
It would be the Catalyst Fund. Yeah, we would treat it like we're treating the Catalyst Fund today, right? Just in a different manner, in a different color money. We would probably use the Catalyst Fund existing committee that some of you guys are on, right? The RHA is heavily represented in that committee. I think a majority of that committee is RHA. I don't think that we would need to do anything other than what we have, with the exception of pivoting the rubric, pivoting the application process. The concept actually evolved from the idea of how to stack, how to address the capital stack. So, for example, we just got notified last week that Ken Curtis was successful in getting DOH money. I think he's got $10 million that has to go to 120 AMI or less in terms of loans, construction loans, those kind of loans. But the limitation there, it can only be 30% of the loan value, right? So if we're able to come on top of that with a low or no interest loan, we're significantly leveraging these dollars for multi-million-dollar campaigns and efforts. So I know it seems like a small dollar amount, But when we mix it and stack it with things like Ken Curtis's program, and we're coming to the table at no or low interest compared to 8% monies that are out there, we're actually making some impact.
Yeah, Mike, great information. How does it revolve then? You kind of put the pieces together, but how does it come back?
Great question. So it's a loan, it's not a grant. And so we would come up with loan terms so that the payment comes back to the fund and then can go back out again, right? So it's a continuous loan fund. They do not want any fees to come out of it. And I think we were good with that. We would probably look to have any costs, from the Catalyst Fund picked up by the RHA. I don't think it's going to be significant, but we're not able to go to them and say there's a 3% fee or 5% fee for administrative costs and I think we're set up to do this. I think we've shown that we can do this with the existing Catalyst Fund. It would just be a secondary program with the existing infrastructure that we have.
Come back with the sale of the home or?
It would probably, I don't think it's necessarily sale of the home. I think that we could develop those terms with the developer, right? Whether it's a 1-year payback, because if you think about it, that's probably the window that they're concerned about most is that first year of a construction loan. If we can influence that first year with a no or low interest in the mix, we're considerably driving down the cost of money for that first critical year. But in terms of what do those terms look like, this is where we still need another step with DIDF and probably some of the bankers involved and say, what should the loan parameters be in terms of what's the maximum amount of interest, what's the maximum amount of time, the shortest amount of time, and that essentially would create the new rubric. I'm sorry, could somebody closer to the microphone repeat that question?
Nicole was saying that we should look at 2-year terms because of related to bonding developers, that 2-year terms would be more favorable for that.
It's more common.
It's more common.
Yeah, thank you. My suggestion is that maybe a couple of members of the RHA board offer their expertise in helping develop these terms, because the Alliance is certainly not going to drive these terms. We're probably going to look towards, you guys or some housing consultants or like Moxie or even I think DIDF has some ideas because there's a lot of folks that have been in the development business and have long-standing banking relationships. But I think collectively or collaboratively, I should say, we should come up with these terms before we create a resolution and before we move forward with the program. Right now, I think that the question is there interest, and do we move forward with creating these terms specifically, getting down to the specifics of how we would do this, and then eventually creating a resolution and moving forward, engaging with the executive board at the DIDF. What they want to do is, as an executive entity, make a recommendation to their membership and probably go to vote to that membership within the next 30 days.
That's great, yeah.
I am in full support of this. I have a couple thoughts. One is on implementation. The county set up a revolving loan fund with our ARPA dollars. So if anybody wants to look at that template, happy to provide it. That's where the funding for West Side and Triangle Park came from. So Lisa's familiar with this, and I'll just provide it as, if you have bankers involved, they may not need to look at a template, but I can provide that. And then my second thought is, since we already have projects that have been funded by the Catalyst Fund and projects that we know are in other pipelines that are live, I'm not on the committee, I'm just giving input of like, can we give them preference? You know, like we already have invested in some units that we feel pretty good are coming online with other dollars. So, you know, Rock Creek, Cinnamon Heights, anything the city's doing, plus anything that went through the Catalyst Fund. Cause it could be that they get Catalyst Fund and then they need a loan, so
And
that's
we
just input.
We currently have the Catalyst Fund set up that a project can come back.
Okay.
after Each round, they can come back for.
Loan
application.
or, yeah, okay, yeah. But I will send you, Mike, our revolving loan fund document that we set it up.
That's great. That's fantastic. Yeah, the less reinventing the wheel, the better.
Well, I think this is really great news and another example of folks in the community contributing to the community.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
That's a big deal. And the fact that it's benefiting the entire region is huge to me. So it's a big deal. So congratulations and great work, Mike and Sarah and everybody who's been involved in this thing.
So it looks like you need a decision.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, would love one so that I can go back to the DIDF executive board and say, yes, the RHA would like to move forward in negotiating or not, there's no negotiation, really figuring out the terms collaboratively so that then the RHA can create a resolution and figure out what the DIDF legal counsel needs in order to move forward with this partnership.
Is that a motion?
So I'll make a motion, that the RHA be the recipient of the DIDF endowment. You know, and then be able for staff to work on the terms.
Is there a second to that? Second. Any other discussion on that item?
I just think this is a great opportunity to leverage, again, local dollars. That could lead to other foundational or other support with an avenue that hasn't existed before.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Great. So discussion updates, grant matrix, Sarah.
Yes, the grant matrix on page 47. Just a few updates on that because I did not get in Bayfield's updates before today. They were not able to obtain funding from the Stronger Communities grant application for Cinnamon Heights. And for those who were there last week with Rick Garcia, what the point that Nicole brought up was the funds, the land that you could leverage in this grant, they had owned for more than a year. And the way that they crafted that application was that it could not be owned for more than a year. So that precluded the town of Bayfield from being eligible for that grant opportunity, which is really disappointing that the state didn't pay a little bit of attention to that detail. But they are still being considered for the application for for the Pine River Commons project, so.
Here's an idea, sell it to the RHA and then buy it back.
Go.
And then you own it within a year.
Yeah, I just thought, well, that's the one thing we did bring up with Jeff, Bridges and, Simpson and, you know, and and Jeff was like, you know, going through his phone, like, no, that's not what it says. And then he said, well, it's a really long bill and maybe it was done at the staff level. And I was like, well, a bank to me is a bank, not a, you know, checkbook for one day.
Yeah.
Right.
They said they stole it
They
from.
used another template from another grant.
From the DIF,
Yeah,
Which was not originally set up for housing projects.
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
So land banking isn't really a thing in EIF as much.
So did he agree to change the law this session? Because that's, you can change
I
law.
don't know, but he was pretty shocked.
Well, let's sell it and then buy it back. Now you.
Well, it's gonna be too late to apply, but as Sarah said, we get to apply for Pine River Commons, which is 66 deed restricted units that the developer's doing, and so at least, well, we're not sure yet. They told me they'd let me know today, but that one's looking more promising.
Seriously, why not sell it to the RHA and then buy it back when,
We'd have to buy it on a note, though.
yeah.
We don't wanna lose our tag rent either, so.
Maybe you're meeting the intent of the bill, but
Yeah, so we're gonna look at another grant in December for the EIS, yeah,
Okay.
which hopefully will probably, yeah.
So Bayfield and Durango have both applied to Stronger Communities grant. Ignacio did not, right? Okay. And then, the only other updates, just to kind of give you some updates on the technical assistance grant, we do have quite a bit, left of that. For not really having a dollar amount, but having a dollar amount. So the things that we are getting covered that we know of right now is the strategic planning session that's coming up in October that everybody should have a calendar invite for. So again, you will be getting some emails around that, some surveys from Clark, who is the housing consultant for this grant. He's going to be asking you some questions to prepare for this strategic planning session. And then the strategic planning session itself will be 2 half days. So the first half day will be getting input and really, hopefully they'll already be getting a lot of that information beforehand, consolidating that on the first day, and on the second day, hopefully be providing a skeleton of a plan that everybody feels good about. And this will help hopefully shape what the RHA does for the next 3 to 5 years. And we will receive a bona fide strategic plan from that process after it is completed. As well as an update to the workforce housing strategy, and more sustainable funding identification. So if there are other things that you want this technical assistance grant to do, we basically received Rick's blessing last week that we can put pressure that we need something through this technical assistance grant. We should be able to utilize it for our individual communities or for the RHA. And then I guess also bring up the fact that Pine River Commons is having a groundbreaking on October 3rd. So hopefully everybody received notice of this. We will send out a calendar invite if we haven't already for that. That'll be coming up at October 3rd at 3 o'clock there at Pine River Commons.
3 o'clock.
Yes. And
on that, could I just, on a technical note, if you are planning on going, would you mind just letting me know? So that way, if we have a quorum there, I can post that, yeah.
we'll probably need to just post it.
I'll just preempt.
Yeah.
That's the safe thing.
Yeah, let's do that. And this will transition into our next agenda item, and that is that every government entity in the RHA has opted into Prop 123. So very excited about that, and I believe Eva has that next agenda item, Chair.
Yes, I do.
You know, can I back up the tape just slightly? Since we have this technical assistance, you know, a long time ago, the RHA reviewed a list. It was actually done by our attorney and given to the RHA of all the different kinds of funding sources. Everything from vendor fee to impact fee, sales property. And then we had a really good discussion about STR taxes and could they be taxed, and no, they can't be taxed countywide until we change state law. My question has always been, how much money could we get from each of those funding sources? And it takes diving into our tax records, and, you know, it takes somebody that knows what they're doing. Because we keep talking about a need for more money, and I feel like we need a white paper or a chart or something that says, if you were gonna do the vendor fee, you could get X. If you were gonna do a property tax at X mills, you could get Y. And so that we're starting to talk in specifics.
Yeah.
And if they're willing to do that, it means that we're not doing it, and, you know, how many voters are there, and what is the total taxation of the valuation if you put a mill to it? What about sales tax? And I really think we need somebody to do that work.
Okay, yeah, and both of the housing consultants that we currently have should be able to help provide
Okay,
that, so
yeah.
we will push for that.
Yeah, and you still have that chart from a long time ago.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
just like,
I'll
because
provide
if
that
we
to
find
them, too.
out that, I think we have to start talking about what are the trade-offs and what are we really trying to fund? Are we trying to fund, and I know this is gonna come out of the session, but are we trying to set up a land bank? Are we trying to fund the projects that we know about? Are we we know the RHA needs funding. I mean, the governments are funding it now. Do we want some funding for the RHA? Do we want funding for the Catalyst Fund so that we get that up to 10 million and maybe endow it? I mean, I'm just raising all these ideas, but you know, I'd really like to know how much juice can you squeeze out of each of those lemons?
I think it's a very good suggestion.
Is that something we could do at our retreat?
Well,
I'm gonna push for them to look at that and have that be a part of it.
Yeah. Yep.
Because we know we're not gonna have anything on the ballot for November
Right.
of 23,
right,
and potentially not housing in 24. And ARPA money has the cliff effect of 24. So we need to proactively
Yeah.
talk about this at the retreat.
yeah. I don't think we should rule out anything, including a ballot initiative in 24 at this point.
I didn't, I'm just
I
saying,
think it's a clean.
we have a cliff effect of ARPA money.
Yeah.
So we need to talk about that so that elected officials can be more informed. Timelines and all of those things that were sort of, I felt like everyone's hair was on fire and it was like deadlines and we can't meet on it. So it's always good to be, I'd rather be proactive and informed than us not being informed and then leave stuff on the table that we didn't know.
Right,
We just don't know anything until we know.
right,
So,
right.
and that was a very good matrix.
Yeah.
That
So
was,
let's
I
look
don't know
at
if your
it.
attorney's office spent time on that significantly. Yeah, I thought so. So,
Well, I think this is actually a good segue into Prop 123.
Exactly.
I will say we did get notified from, the Division of Housing and DOLA on our Strong Communities application. We have our pre-application meeting, with the state, on October 5th. For an hour and a half, and it's a lot of folks that are gonna be on that to interview with, so. Wish us luck on that level.
What's the project name?
This is for, in partnership with the city of Durango's land, and the adjacent landowner at Florida Road, for Durango crossings. This would be the largest at-scale workforce and mixed income development in Durango. Pretty exciting. That's for us. Yeah. So Prop 123, thank you all for opting in. We just want to recognize that, for our community, for the commitment to housing. And it's not guaranteed funding, as we all know. They're setting up all of these programs, based on some of the programming that already exists at SHAFA and Division of Housing. And then there'll be some new programming that will come out of some of these funds as well. SHAFA has been the lead right now on their portion of the money. So they've set up their concessionary debt, the equity, and the land banking program. So I would love to talk more about land banking, at our retreat, and a real purpose there. Because we could be leaving money on the table by not acquiring parcels, or property. So that's a good segue into Division of Housing. DOLA is on sort of a 2-month holiday, but it's not called a holiday. It's interesting to put that out there like that, but they, through the governor's executive order, are very onerous to get better at the things that they have in play. They need to be able to work through why it's taking so long to get grant agreements and contracts out the door, with very stringent legislative timelines and deadlines on funding to be spent, which, as we all know, is putting a significant impact on projects and things to move forward, because you can't spend money until you have the contract signed with the state for your grant funding. And so it's really causing a lot of leeway and lag time for projects with weather around the corner. It's just,
Can't believe it snows.
I can't either. And, you know, it's just been a real challenge. So I'm hopeful and optimistic that they'll continue to work on that. I'm sure it's adding staff. We all heard that at the statewide outreach event last year. DOLA said they needed an additional 70 staff And I don't know how that's all played out or not, knowing that these programs and funding were gonna be coming their way. So I'm hopeful for 2 months with their doors closed, that we'll see some enhancement and improvement. We're also working with Shirley Diaz on what that programming is going to look like on the Division of Housing side. As we all know, Prop 123 is 100% AMI or less for ownership. It is by unit. So if you're doing a mixed income development and you're doing a range of units and unit types and targeting varying AMIs, consider that how to leverage the state funding for those key units that are at or below 100% AMI and figure out your gap between market rate and affordable. Leverage Prop 123 for that purpose. And we've done some exercising to show DOLA and Division of Housing how I'm utilizing that in negotiations with projects, and they may use that as part of the rubric for Prop 123. So I feel like we've been heard, we're getting listened to. And then how do we leverage our local dollars as the match for some of the infrastructure costs, or some of the pre-development costs, or some of the gap between above 100% AMI, but maybe not below 140% or 120% AMI. So that the local dollars, it's a smaller gap to fill. The state dollars is the larger gap to fill. And then you can scale that up if you do 15% of the project, 25% of the project, 50% of the project. And I kept leveraging the Prop 123 to show the bigger gap. So that they could understand when you have a baseline commitment for all of these communities, that gap will be growing exorbitantly with the 100% AMI or less, or the 60% AMI or less for rent. And so one of the things with the land banking program that they've put at play is that you have to have 51% of your project at least affordable as an outcome for that land acquisition and that land project. It's good to know a delta to work with. They would prefer it to be higher than 51%, but for rural resorts, knowing that it's sort of a challenge for us, that's the delta that we would get a waiver on. But ideally, they're wanting, development to be at scale for affordable housing purposes.
Are they gonna spell all this out?
I've asked for this because it's
So
hard
you
to
can
digest,
understand.
and then saying one thing is different than understanding and seeing it in writing. So that's why I connected with Shirley Diaz at the groundbreaking event. So my apologies, I was a couple minutes late to get here. But I'm asking for that part of it preemptively, because there's some conversations that those programs may be released through DOLA November 1 and December 1. As we will learn, that gets really challenging with grant deadlines around the holidays and submitting these for projects, especially when city council, may cancel the meeting for the 1st of January or around Christmas time to get resolutions in place. So I continue to be an advocate for our region. I continue to engage with the state as much as I can to help inform and get dollars hopefully set aside for us. And I will say, after the Rick Garcia meeting, Andrew actually reached out to me directly to get some more follow-up. So I feel like they were really listening to us, which is good. So that's what I know about Prop 123. I think we talked about doing a joint press release with everyone to get the information out. I think that's the next course of action for Prop 123.
Patrick Ronanelli did say that everything was oversubscribed in their grant requests, so there's a huge demand, as we know, but hopefully we can pull in a fair amount of dollars in our region.
Well, we went in for the full ask of 4 million. The infrastructure road could cost us 7. But the outcome is more than 50% of those units will be affordable housing. So
On the stronger
on
community.
the Strong Communities grant, and so we'll have to tell that story during our grant. And that could also lead to a child care center.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
I have a question. So when we were, and we were last to opt in, as you all noticed, so a little cautious, but we finally did. And we just had to get it scheduled for a work session, but Kevin was talking about, is there a way we can share units?
Yes.
Yeah, there is. He thought there was, he wanted me to bring it up, that, so that's good, and we track on that, and I would love to have the problem that La Plata County goes over our 100 and some, and then we could, if somebody else wasn't meeting their quota or the other. So, okay, all right.
And we want to keep it on the RHA board meeting agendas every time to discuss, so that we're all communicating about that.
And actually, at baseline, I think, Clark, you may have emailed, and then Bayfield's 14. Okay, you're 14. Are you guys 14 as well? So Bayfield and Ignacio are both 14. Okay, okay. And then the county,
It's 100 and something. I heard
100
two
something.
numbers you, sir, because you have it in your
Yes,
report,
yeah, it was, he had said, hold on.
like 108.
just on that slide for the,
He said, with the county opting in, he said that it is establishing a baseline of 1,205 units and a 3-year commitment of 108 units.
okay, that's what, okay, so we'll share that with
Okay.
the Prop 123 slide at the Economic Development Alliance Summit. Okay, and then Durango's is 184. 183.
Anything else on Prop 123? Not, member updates. Mine will be kind of quick. I met with, Weston Bierman. He's the developer of the Gage Apartments, he and Mike Bounce this morning, trying to kind of do a postmortem on what went well, what didn't. The cost per square foot came in right around $300 a foot, not including the land.
Are you talking about those apartments by Home Depot?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so I call it the Lego project. But,
Yeah.
and they talked about the different, players in the manufactured housing range, game and why they chose the group out of Idaho, and it had to do with the size of the unit that they could truck in. They talked about Fading West, and Fading West has a kind of a limited template of attached product that they can do right now. And there's some internal things related to fire suppression and that kind of thing that the Idaho group does in-house, and Fading West farms out, or you have to do it on site as a contractor. So all in all, it came in very close to what a stick-built project would be, but it came in 6 months faster, even with the winter conditions that we had, which is huge from a financing standpoint, especially at today's interest rates. The other thing.
Labor standpoint.
Yeah. The other interesting thing is, that from a developer's return standpoint on those kind of projects, you look for something that's probably in the 15 to 20% range. This is gonna be a single digit return range, but the key is it's in an opportunity zone, so the tax gymnastics that the equity play put in there. But that gives you an idea of how skinny some of these things are on a market rate deal. So just the truth about it.
Hey, Mike, did they do a market study before they did the project, and are they hitting what the study said?
I don't know.
I'd be interested in that as, Division of Housing is building that into their criteria for grant funding, and I'm just wondering how valid it is.
Yeah, I don't have an answer to that.
We'll get time out.
Okay, thanks.
Town of Ignacio, you're up.
Welcome to Ignacio. Mark, you got anything?
Keep going.
I already did my speech.
Well, I would just say, we didn't apply for Stronger Communities. I did talk with Andy Hill, and we just didn't have a good project. We've been focusing on Rock Creek. But Rick Garcia was here last week, and we talked about a planning grant for LI and downtown, under that downtown redevelopment portion, not so much housing right now. And they thought it would be a good fit for them, for that program. So we'll probably put in on the Stronger Communities planning grant for this downtown corridor here. And thank you for coming to the Rock Creek groundbreaking. We're very excited about that. We're putting some numbers together now that the infrastructure is taken care of. Trying to work on the housing piece, maybe with Fading West, and the tribe has expressed interest in selecting Fading West for their fiveplexes as well. So, we might have a really neat project there coming together sooner than not. And that market study, Jen's been helping with it, but I think there's gonna be demand. I mean, the few houses that are being built up on Tranquil Quarter being sold before they're even finished, and that's fair market housing. So I think on the affordable side, talking with the fire chief, school superintendent, we have staff, county staff maybe as well. I think there's a demand that we can meet with that project, so. Also, had an interesting conversation with Elevation Land Trust on, some of our other land bank properties and how we might be able to move those forward with maybe a land trust model. Yeah, I'm not sure how long this, I mean, Prop 123 money is gonna be around for a while, but these other dollars are not, so. How we structure our projects, I think, is gonna be, requiring more creative approaches and wearing different hats. So maybe the land trust model is one that we can start looking at, so. Good conversation with them on that. And what am I forgetting?
For this group, it's good.
I would like to add one
Oh,
other
I
item.
and one other item, if I may.
Oh, go ahead.
So just, not so much as Ignacio, but as your treasurer, JJ forwarded the docs, we'll be bringing a draft budget to you next month. And, I don't think there's much changes there. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that. By statute, we have to present it by October 15th, so we'll have a draft budget, but we have a couple months to tweak it, so.
I don't know if when you were up at Rock Creek, if you noticed the townhomes, that's Keach's Hills Heights, which is a tribal, project. And they're really triplexes with attached garages. They're below market. There's a preference structure for Southern Utes and Native Americans, but I would say maybe half the residents are non-native as well. So it kind of gives you an idea of mix. The growth fund's going to build 3 more duplexes now. There'll be 6 more units on that site, coming up in the next year.
Are they rental or for sale?
They're rental, yeah. And, I mean, it's a very popular, project. The waiting list has been long. The growth funds managed it for years. It was one of my babies. Yeah.
And it's nice looking too.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say, people wanna live in housing that looks nice and that looks really good, so.
And they envision the same model on the 5plexes that, they're looking to build here.
The
Mansion
management.
Mall, yeah, so their congressional funding potentially will build 2 of them, but they're, I think, committed to build all 5, so. We'll see how that comes together.
Is that funding, Senator Bennett's gonna be here tomorrow, are we gonna hear if that CDS comes through for the?
Well, it's all in, it's just dependent on the omnibus.
If it goes through, yeah, we went through that,
So
yeah.
I don't think he has any, he may be able to answer, but they're in the mix.
Yeah, Nathan.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how to give the county that senior center back. No. Sorry. We are.
Be a good homeless place.
We are working on budget and of course, just, trying to bring our law enforcement up to, competitive salaries and, that's all in the general fund, so figuring that out. What we do have a ballot issue, for sales tax, and it's basically for parks, culture and, heritage. So looking at trying to support the senior center with a sales tax, as far as that goes. I'm gonna pass all the housing stuff on to Nicole, because I'm just kind of buried in budget and our agenda, working on a resolution to oppose, Proposition HH. But anyway, I'll pass it on to Nicole for our housing.
Yeah, so as Sarah said, we didn't get the strong communities for Cinnamon Heights, but hopefully for Pine River Commons Phase 1, which is 33 units. And so we hopefully will find out today if we get an interview, move on for that project. And they don't have a problem with meeting their match. And so the only thing that they're looking at for that one is if it's in a commercial corridor or in downtown or a daycare center. It's on our highway commercial corridor, and they're actually putting in commercial as part of it. It's a mixed use project, so I'm hoping that covers it, so we'll see what happens. And then we have a few projects under construction. We have Mustang Crossing, which is market rate housing, but 81 units. Right now they're building 19 for their Phase 1, and so that's a lot of dirt moving. On that project, we have a small infill 14-unit project that has 2 COs now and 2 permits that I'm ready to issue for 2 more units on that. Our tiny home village has been completed and is accepting leases. So if you know anybody who owns a tiny home and they want to go live in Bayfield, they're accepting leases there. And then, we have our project as well, which we're trying to, fill the gap, $700,000 for the infrastructure so that we can hopefully start that in the spring. That would be ideal. And I think we've kind of been talking about, we might just go ahead and have to start it and figure it out as we move along. And trying to get we want to get a builder partner. Our hope is one builder for 30 units, but, so putting together an RFP, for that builder partner so that they can come in earlier in the process as we're starting to do the infrastructure. So those are some of the big housing ones, yeah.
Great, thank you.
If I may just add, you know, we did the bid on Rock Creek and we received 4 bids and they were good. Canyon came in hungrier and we awarded it to them, but I think what's happening is, and I mentioned this when Rick Garcia was here, is I think a lot of for-profit projects are no longer penciling because of interest rates and other things, so they're falling off the radar and the contractors are getting hungry again, so that might be a good move to just start the project and see if we can get it moving, so.
The other thing, which is not housing related, but it is we applied for the Snoren Institute offers 2 communities a year, technical assistance for waterwise, becoming a waterwise community, and so conservation efforts, but pertain to land use and water. And, you know, we've been really interested in like doing some landscape standards, and things like that community-wide. And so we applied for it and we were one of 2 in Colorado. So, so free technical assistance for that. That starts our kickoff meetings tomorrow and we get them for a year. So we're excited for that one.
As one more general question, so as we're writing these grants, you know, they have a 25% match, let's say. But, you know, I found that if you come in with a little bit more match, you may be a little more competitive in this very competitive round. On Rock Creek, we did a 66-33 grant match. Criteria was only 20 or 25% requirement. But I'm wondering, as we write our grants, you know, we should track that and just see, you know, if we're coming in with just minimum match, maybe we're not as competitive where, I don't know, I mean, having a great project is always helpful, but I'd be curious to see how that plays out in the mix of things. You know, it's more money out of our pocket for more match, but more we get the grant. So I don't know, just.
We might be able to add that to the grant tracking with our match percentage.
Yeah. Dave Drago.
Well, you know, like Katie here, we've got a lot on our plate right now in the fall on Vernon Day. All the projects want funding for the budget cycle coming up, so we're getting a lot of presentations such as Durango Mountain Park, electric bikes, all kinds of stuff. But overlooking all those educational events is, I'm finding that there still is a lot of opposition to, say, Durango Crossing, the big project down there on Florida Road, because people aren't accepting a multi-level housing project. And
That's
so,
2 different projects.
okay, is it?
It is, yes, so the Durango Crossings is more towards the intersection of
Okay.
County Road 250. Where 900 Florida Road was further down Florida, and that's where the opposition was occurring because of the 4-story density.
The height.
The height of that
yeah.
project.
So well, there's confusion, and I was confused too about the whole thing. But you know, I'm working on that, and also there was confusion about the residences at Durango, something of the Best Western. And I'm finding that the community thinks that the RHA is a developer. But you know, when I try to explain how everybody's working together to get these projects funded and then try to move them along, it just seems like it's another level that they have to start understanding. Yeah.
We talked about some language or explanation at one point about RHA, like how do we, I think you brought it up.
Yes,
How do we explain it to the public better?
Right.
yeah,
Something
Well,
like that.
that probably leads into a couple of other things. the residents at Durango will have an update with city council on October 3rd. So that will be a brief portion of your study session coming up. So hopefully we can work through some of the clarifying points and also talk about the groundbreaking event that's planned for later in October. But we will get information out on that because we're working through a few legal components for the project right now. But that being said, we have Fading West and Elevation Community Land Trust coming in for a site visit. This is a joint project for modular construction for all affordable homeownership. It's the first of its kind in Durango. It will be at the Twin Buttes former Animas High School site for 30 units. So we're doing our first site visit with them in person. So Fading West is coming in and Elevation will be here next Thursday. I will also be meeting on site with the Volunteers of America development team for potential phase 2 of the Miramont project, which is a 9% low-income housing tax credit project. They already have entitlement for phase 2. So we'll just be navigating some of the financial stack that we can try and do for that particular project. It looks like they're targeting maybe next year to try and develop that second site. That is I think it's 55 plus or 65 plus for senior housing.
That's the one in Three Springs.
Yeah.
That is
Right
the
across
one in
from
Three
Costco.
Springs.
Yeah.
Yes. The Gage Apartments, as Pat mentioned, received 59 certificate of occupancies on October 11th. Of those, 39 are
August 11th.
August, what did I say?
I'm traveling.
On August 11th. August has been really busy. Even though I'm in September right now. So 59 units received certificates of occupancy. 39 of those 59 units are leased by Fort Lewis College right now for 1 year. Leaving 9 units for the public for market rate and leaving 9 of our rent restricted units of the 14 in building A. And then building C will be coming online with another 30 units, probably late October. This is 89 units of multifamily apartments, which is muchly needed in our community.
Is it for student or for faculty?
It's my understanding that they house primarily students.
Yeah.
Right now for that purpose.
Yeah, we
And they
talked-
are still 50 beds shy for student housing,
Yeah.
so we're
Oh,
gonna,
really?
we're trying to, we met with Fort Lewis last week.
Yeah.
So there's still a
I was
really.
talking with Steve Schwartz last week as well about potential rental units on the FLC site for faculty. So,
Like they have in land.
yeah, they have the land.
do.
So Anima City Park Overlook, the townhome development by North Main City Market, also around August 11th, received 11 certificate of occupancies in the month of August, of which 4 of those are deed restricted. One is the lighter workforce unit, and then 3 of those are the income restricted units that were reduced by $125,000 from the market rate price. So that was a $500,000 city investment into that project right now. And then phase 2, we just received the plat for the as-built for phase 2, which is the additional 11 units, of which we'll have 5 light workforce units and 1 income restricted remaining unit in phase 2. That should be later this year. I've been asked to be a guest speaker at the Housing Colorado Conference this year. So City of Durango will be represented with Steamboat Springs, City of Denver, and City of Longmont. So I'm speaking on a panel about inclusionary zoning and what works, what doesn't work, and how we're looking to improve our program here locally. So I'll be at that conference the week of October 11th through the 13th in Summit County. And that's probably what I have for right now.
When are you going to roll out the inclusionary zoning framework?
So we just did a study session with City Council on September 5th. Around fair share, and just gave them a brief update. We are doing a package of land use development code updates around our boards and commissions, parking requirements, our ADU program. There's some minor amendments, and then fair share is really a part 1 that staff is proactively bringing forward. It'll go to planning commission first in October, and it would go to council in December potentially. And then the route policy project, we're actually 50% of the way there through the DOLA grant funding that we got from the IHOP planning grant from 1271. That's overhauling the entire program and creating a new program and then adding rental development. I would anticipate that later next spring, to go before council. Yeah.
Well, we still are very interested, this is not, I mean, we have to pass a, vote and all that good stuff of next year putting on the ballot a reallocation of the lodgers tax. And, what that would do, that's countywide, that doesn't deal with the lodgers tax in any of the municipalities if you have it. And what it allows us to do, there was a bill passed just as refresher in the 22 legislative session that allows counties to reallocate up to 90% for the effects of tourism, i.e. housing, i.e. transit, i.e. childcare, i.e. trailheads, those kinds of things. We have standard language. The way that our lodgers tax works now, you municipalities that are home rule, you just don't know how lucky you have it. We are dialed in by the state to say you have to spend your lodgers tax on marketing. So it basically comes to the county and goes right to visit our lodgers tax panel, and they give it right to Visit Durango. So I'm really excited about it. I hope that, and we will lead up after the first of the year to really start looking at it. Of course, Visit Durango is concerned, as they should be. And we would look at, we don't want to cut off marketing for our community. I mean, sales tax is really important to all of us. But by the same token, we do have these really big impacts. And so I think next year we'll really need to be looking at, my vision would be, you're not, we would maybe bring in like $400,000 or $500,000 a year. So it wouldn't be that much, but maybe what's the biggest bang for the buck for housing? Maybe it's putting some into the catalyst fund or, that kind of stuff. So we're talking about that. Our planning director has been, I think, in her job a month, and I'm psyched because she's still here. Her name is Lynn Hyde, and she's really a go-getter. She was a planner for Montezuma, Montana. So, has that rural resort city experience. We have kind of it all here. You heard about the Adventure Inn, super psyched about that. Hope that it goes through. And then we made a verbal commitment to Bayfield, and when we met with Bayfield last, that similar to how we're giving some of the ARPA money to Rock Creek, we'd like to I always felt like it was inequitable that we were helping Rock Creek and not helping Bayfield. And so we have to start working on that with Chuck. Once our new health department's set up, I think we'll have a lot more bandwidth. But really want to help, both communities with housing. So we haven't gotten a request from the city yet, but who knows? Partnership. Yeah, right. So anyway, trucking along, we'll be talking about the lodgers tax. If we go through it, what we'd like to do is get a deal with Visit Durango so they're not in opposition. That right off the bat, they're feeling like, okay, we may get some of our, million, how much do we give them? It's like $1 million a year. So do they need that much, and what's their real budget? And, we don't want them to feel completely disenfranchised. So
How much did the city give them? 2, right?
2, yeah, we give them about $1 million on like COVID year, it was $1 million. Actually, we're anticipating in our budget the sales tax going down next year.
Okay.
We're not getting the rush of people that we were, but still getting a fair amount, and there are impacts.
Marcia, I did meet with Lynn as well.
Oh, did you?
On behalf of the RHA.
Oh, great.
Meant to update the board, but yeah, she's great. And I have offered also to help be a resource on STR information.
Oh, great.
As well as some best practices through the technical assistance grant.
Thanks.
As you all navigate that.
We're, once we get our health department set up, which is by 1/1/24, we will then delve more into the STR conversation. Yeah. Right now, we're looking at what could we do now? Like, we don't have a noise ordinance in the county, so that's one big complaint, and, but then really look at policy on STRs next year, which doesn't affect, it does affect housing. What we would look at is probably licensure.
Yeah.
So
there were some aspects that I feel like could be covered through the technical assistance grant in terms of providing some best practices and that sort of thing.
Great.
So we had that conversation and keeping her in the loop on RHA matters as much as she can be. I know she's drinking from the White House, so.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Anything else? No, this meeting's adjourned.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Great meeting.
Yeah. it was a great meeting.
That's because we were in Ignacio.
Thank you all.
Exactly.
We can add that.
Grant
Then-
matrix is like,
Yeah.
just say grant match there, and then people can fill out. information. That's what I did.
It's waiting for us.
About.